Thank you, Brother James and band. Love that song. Well, thank you for inviting me back. Last week, it was my pleasure to be here for Father's Day, and we focused on the good Father, the compassionate Father. And I've enjoyed sharing my faith with you. My faith, at the bottom of that faith, is my conviction that there is, at the heart of the universe, a parental heart, the heart of a good Father who's also a great mother. And this parental heart is not content until we are all welcomed home. Restoration. What good news that is. Well, let's look again at Rembrandt's painting. This is part 2. Rembrandt's masterpiece painting from the 17th century. You can count them there. There are at least 5 figures in this painting. There's the younger son, there's the older son, there's the compassionate father, there's a bystander sitting with hands on his chest, there's a woman in the background, perhaps the mother, there's other servants in the background. There's at least 5 figures, maybe 7, some say 8. You have to be really close to see all the textures of this painting. It's in the Hermitage Museum in St. Petersburg, Russia. And there it's on a whole wall. It takes up a whole wall, and you can really see it and study it there. But let's note what we did last week, which was there is a platform, elevated platform, where all that drama takes place, and there is the spotlight right on the face of the compassionate Father that is also lighting up the returning Son, who kneels, who's humbled, who's missing a shoe, but who still has the sword of his sonship. He still knows who he is, even though he's lost so much. And there, that prodigal, that returning son who's been to the far country, he lays his head upon the breast and the chest of his father, there to hear the heartbeat, the very heartbeat of a loving God. Love that focus. But today's focus we're going to do on the figure on the right. So there's another picture. It's on the bulletin as well. But there's a close-up of the elder son in the parable. Let's focus on this shadowed figure on the right, which most commentators, not all, but most identify as the older son in the parable. He's upright. He is composed. He's watching. His expression is kind of hard to read. I think it's a bit ambiguous, don't you? He's withdrawn, perhaps judgmental, or perhaps something closer to a longing, desiring something. He stands apart from the reunion. His hands are clasped in a kind of a controlled way. He's across a dark divide that Rembrandt painted deliberately. So go back to that first slide. And there you see the divide. There's a platform on the left where the prodigal son has returned, well lit, and there's a platform to the right that's dark. And there, I'm not sure how well you can see it, but there's a real chasm. It's deep, and it's dividing the two sons. It's dividing the father and the younger son from the older son and those who look on. Well, we understand something about the journey of the younger son. It's a dramatic journey. It's, I was lost and now I'm found. It's coming home without probation. There's a robe, there's a ring, there's a feast. We understand that journey. It's a simple story, really. The older son's journey is a little bit more complicated. And it's very familiar. It's a very familiar one. And so let's just kind of look into that, consider that for a moment. There's something about the older son's journey that hits home for most of us. You know, the elder son, could be a daughter, did everything right, while the younger brother is squandering the wealth in reckless living. The older son stays home and holds things together. He worked the land. He managed the estate. He kept the accounts. He honored his father's name in the community. He showed up day after day without complaint, dutiful, obedient, faithful, committed. His father relied on him completely to run things. And yet, when the music starts and the celebration begins for his returning brother, the elder son finds himself outside the house in the dark, and he will not go in. I mean, he never left home, but he's lost his way. He's lost at home. How many of us know that way of being lost? Perhaps some of us are older siblings in the family. I'm the oldest child of 3 brothers. I know what it's like to be the older son. It's got its privileges. But you know, the younger kids, they got away with murder. You know, my parents let them get away with everything, and I had to, I was expected to be the dutiful one and to be the standard bearer. Senior, elder children tend to be expected to bear the standards of the family and not to disappoint. Well, the younger ones have a little bit more freedom to sow wild oats or find themselves or rebel a little bit. The older one's not allowed as much privilege. Well, maybe you grew up in a home like that. Different expectations, double standards. It's not quite fair. And it can breed resentment and judgment. And sometimes that judgment and bitterness, resentment can last for decades. And truth be known, there's probably a little bit of elder brother in all of us, sisters and brothers, a little bit of the elder in all of us. Well, if you follow the text pretty closely, do a close reading, you see the older son is outside in the field. He's coming in from the field, and the father goes out into the field. Just like the father goes out into the road when his younger son comes home, he goes out to where the older son is coming in from the field, ready to enter the house when he hears the music. And so this son of mine was dead and now alive again. He's lost and now is found. That's not good news to the elder son. He doesn't receive it as good news. He hears the music, he hears the dancing, and he's not impressed. He refuses to go in. Of course he's in the field. Where else would he be, right? That's who he is. He is the brother that did not go to the distant country. He was the elder son who was here and now working the land, keeping the faith, holding it together for years without recognition, without reward. He hears the music, he calls the servant, what's going on? When he finds out what's going on, that his father has thrown a party, something in him hardens. Something grows cold, if you will. Well, when the father says, what's wrong, right? What's going on? Come on in. Your brother has come home. The elder brother says out loud, finally he says out loud what has been festering in him for years. He says to his father, listen to me. I can hear him say that. Listen, Father. All these years I've been working for you like a slave, and I have never disobeyed a single command. Yet you have never given even a young goat so that I might celebrate with my friends. But when this son of yours," notice how he identifies the younger son, "this son of yours, who has devoured your property with prostitutes, you killed the fatted calf for him." He's not my brother, he's this son of yours, feeling like a hired hand, obedience without intimacy, duty without delight, earning what was always freely given. Well, hear what the father says. "Son, you are always with me, and everything I have is yours." The father does not rebuke him. He does not defend the party. He simply reminds the older son of what has been true all along, that you have always been with me, that you have had what your brother was starving for presence, not presence, but presence of being, proximity, relationship, every single day. The inheritance was never at risk. Everything I have is yours. But the older son has been living in his father's house as though he were a hired hand. That's how he felt. He had access to the feast all along, but he never claimed it. He was too busy being faithful that he forgot that he was loved. It's a familiar story. I want to introduce you to one of my mentors. I did last week as well, but I have a lot of mentors in my life. And one of my mentors was my professor, my teacher in seminary, whose name was Henry Nouwen. You may have heard his name before. He's a writer of a lot of popular books. He's a Roman Catholic priest. He was my professor, major professor, my favorite professor in seminary. And I remained in touch with him throughout my career, all my professional life. I have learned so much from him. In fact, I brought one of his books today. I'm preaching out of his work. One of his most famous books is called The Return of the Prodigal Son, and he put that painting right on the cover of his book, The Story of Homecoming. I've learned a lot about Rembrandt from Henry Nouwen, and I've learned a lot about Jesus from Henry Nouwen, and I want you to know him too. Because Henry Nouwen writes in this book about how he himself was the older son in his family of four. He had two younger brothers. He had a younger sister. He was the oldest in his Dutch family. And this guy, Henry Nouwen, as the older brother, he succeeded. He did it right. Other siblings self-differentiated and did their own thing, but he became the priest in the family. He held up the family tradition. He felt called to be a priest at the age of 6. He got ordained early. He became a psychologist as well as a priest. He got to be a professor at Notre Dame, and then at Yale, and then at Harvard. Top of the line in academics. And then he gave all that up, gave up tenure, gave it all up, and became a resident priest at the L'Arche community in Toronto, Canada, a community for people with disabilities, severe, extreme disabilities, and became their pastor. People who didn't even know his name, or that he wrote books, had cognitive issues many times. He became their pastor. Amazing story that he had. And he writes about his life, that underneath all that success, underneath all that faithfulness and achievement, there was a need that he could barely name. And he finally wrote about it. He writes this: "All my life, I've harbored a strange curiosity for the disobedient life that I myself never dared to live, but which I saw being lived by many around me. I did all the proper things, mostly complying with all the agendas set by the parental figures in my life, my father and my mother, teachers, spiritual directors, bishops, popes. But at the same time, I often wondered why I didn't have the courage to run away, as the younger son did. And then he had this deeper admission, a deeper confession. He said, the more I reflect on the elder son in me, the more I realize how deeply rooted this form of lostness really is, and how hard it is to return home. My resentment is not rational. I have everything I need. It's not rational. It's far more pernicious, he says, something that has attached itself to the underside of my virtue. Something has attached itself to the underside of my virtue. I've turned that phrase over in my head many times since Henry first said it. The resentment doesn't wear the face of anger. It wears the face of virtue, of fairness, of legitimate grievance, of reasonable expectation. And that's why it's so hard to see and so hard to let go of. What is resentment? Henry Nouwen, the psychologist, who's also the priest, says resentment is cold anger. Cold anger. We know about hot anger. If you have hot anger, and if we name it honestly, we find a way to express it safely, it loses a lot of its power. It's dissipated. Hot anger is like a flash. It comes, you express it, it goes. But when we swallow those feelings, when we don't name them, don't express them safely, they linger, they harden, and they become cold anger, resentment. Henry Nouwen says, resentment, he says, is the curse of the faithful, the virtuous, the obedient, the hardworking, and it settles in the human heart, and it causes havoc. It's heavy stuff. The curse of the faithful, not the rebels, not the prodigals. They crash, they burn, they come home. The party's for them. But the ones most at risk are the ones who stayed home, the ones who did everything right and watched someone else receive what they had earned. Henry noticed in himself with painful clarity this truth. He said that at the very moment he wanted to be generous, he would find himself caught in resentment. And just when he was doing his best work, he found himself wondering why others didn't give as much as he did. He called it the problem of the virtuous complainer. I kind of like that. The problem of the virtuous complainer. There's something strangely liberating in naming that. Nouwen struggled with the elder son in himself, and if he struggled with it, if my mentor and my person I elevate into amazing Christian leader, if he struggled with the complainer in himself, then maybe I shouldn't be so ashamed of it in myself when I see it in me. In fact, it's probably something very human to all of us, part of our limitations and our humanness. Well, what is gratitude? The opposite of resentment is gratitude. The word comes from gratia, favor, grace. Gratitude is grace. It has the same root. And it's not counting your blessings so much. It's not comparing yourself favorably to someone worse off than you. It's a gratitude is an attitude. It's an attitude of the heart. It enables us to let go of anger and receive the hidden gifts of those we want to serve. and make these gifts visible to others as a source of celebration. Gratitude is the heart of celebration and ministry, and it can be the heart of the family. But here's where I want to go a little further than what Henry does in his book. I want to go a little further than the self-help version of his teaching. Some people say, just choose gratitude. Just say no to resentment and say yes to gratitude. Just be grateful. And they mean well, but for some people stuck in deep resentment, the counsel is not that helpful. It can feel like one more thing that we failed to get right. You cannot will your way out of resentment any more than you can go and fall asleep by yourself. You can't will yourself to fall asleep. Just try to will yourself to fall asleep. It has to happen. It's like a gift. The harder you try, the more awake you are. Gratitude's like that. It's not a switch that you flip. Gratitude is a gift. And when it comes, it is God's to give in God's good time. But is there anything we can do while we're waiting for the gift to be given? Is there anything we can do to loosen our hold on our resentment and open ourselves up to the gift of gratitude? Here's a little 3-step practice I'll leave you with. Somebody's taking notes. Here it is in 3 simple steps. It's simply this: name it and claim it, and then let it go. Or if you watch Netflix, there's a great series called Nobody Wants This, about a rabbi who has a non-Jewish girlfriend. Nobody wants this, but the hot rabbi, they call him. You should watch it. Nobody wants this. He says, accept it, let it go, move on. That's his advice when everyone gets upset and angry at something. Hey, accept it, let it go, move on. I have a version of that. Name it first, then accept it, and then let it go. Then you can move on. Here's how it works, and I'll leave you with this practical aspect of this sermon. If you find within yourself a bit of the elder son, the elder sibling, if you find something in yourself that is resembling the elder son's resentment, put it in your hand. Just hands are up, you put it there, and you look at it, and you name it. You can even do this with me if you want to. Just put your hand like this, and then imagine that resentment is in your hand and give it a name. Oh, somebody slighted me this week. They said they were going to come over for a visit, but they didn't, and I think they blew me off. And why? What did I do? What's going on? I mean, whatever it is, it caused me resentment. I'm going to put it there, and I'm going to give it a name. All right, or something even heavier. You know, I've been a caregiver, and I went the second mile, and I did more than anybody else did, and I was there, and I went to the very end of the journey, and no recognition, no reward, just duty. I did my duty. I did it well, and here I am, alone, not fair, don't want to go to that party. Doesn't sound like fun to me. Parties for families, parties for couples. I'm alone. I did my job. Big resentment, right? Lots of things we can't let go of. We just hold on to them because we're justified. We feel like we have a right to what's in our hand. So the first step to move from resentment to gratitude, you can't make it happen, but the first step is to just name it. I give it a name. I'm holding a grudge. There it is. And then I also let it stay there a little bit longer, and now I own it. That's a little harder. Naming it's okay. The older son named it. Listen to me, Father. You never gave me anything. I worked for you all these years. He named it. He said it out loud. Good step, good start. But now you got to own it. Whew, that's me. It's not all of me, but this is part of me. I claim it. I own it, and I'm going to accept it. Wow, don't like it. Don't like what I see there. But I gotta own it. Okay, I own it. And then, third step is what they do in 12-step programs, You admit that you're powerless over that which holds you captive, and you become willing to be willing to let it go. I can't let it go, but I can admit that I'm powerless over it, and I can be willing to be willing, and I can start to loosen my grip. And a good way to loosen your grip on it is to turn your hands over. And maybe it'll just fall out. So hands up is naming and claiming it, and hands down is letting it go, at least loosening your grip, and hoping and praying there may be something on the other side of the resentment, something like joy. Because joy and resentment cannot coexist. It's kind of one or the other. And so we turn our hands down. I hope that helps today. I think this parable is left unresolved. We don't know what happened to the older son. We don't know. We know the younger son came to the party. We know the older son was left outside, but does he come to his senses? Does he allow himself to be persuaded by his father to come on in, join the party? Does he stay outside and refuse to come in? The clue doesn't, the painting does not say, and the parable does not say. And I think the parable now is addressed to anyone and everyone who finds himself outside the door in the cold. Child, you're always with me, and everything I have is yours. Come on in. You're home. We cannot make ourselves go in, but we can stay close to the door. We cannot name always what holds us back. We can accept our humanness, though. We can admit our limited power to change, and we can become willing to be willing. One more thing. It's not in the text. Rembrandt doesn't show us this in the painting, but here's what I believe. The Father is not going back inside without us. The party is not a party until all his children are home. May it be so. Amen.